GP players usually don't get much attention except for a few of them, but since I regularly get a few comments about them, I thought it could be a good idea to show the best GP cards ever. Here comes Pepper. Welcome everybody! Now obviously I won't just list the most expensive ones or the ones with the very best stats, but also players that are very good in relation to their cost, which is interesting especially for new players. Also, for many of them I will be showing the best version from the past and then check out whether the most recent version can keep up and is still worth getting. I won't really be talking much about their skills because not only would I be repeating myself a lot and needlessly bloat the video, but also except for a very few cases, I wouldn't give standard players any skills anyway. In case you're generally interested in which player type needs which build or skill, my last video already covers this. Since I will, as usual with this kind of video, probably miss quite a few players, feel free to add them in the comments. You could be helping new players this way. Enough talk, let's begin in no particular order with this one here, Wan-Bissaka. This is his version from 2022 and he is an extremely good defender. Very good defensive stats, very fast, physical contact is also decent, and on top of that he has a fantastic ID with maximum leg length. Having cost less than 50k GP, this was a steal if you didn't have anyone for his position. Now the big question is, can his current GP card keep up? And the answer is absolutely. It's only slightly different, so I would definitely recommend it, especially for this price. He's a steal. Does he qualify as hidden gem? In my opinion, it's very subjective. That's why I used quotation marks in the title. Because for newer players who might not know about him, and generally this also goes for other cards in the video, they would be a hidden gem. But Wan-Bissaka, for example, is super popular, so he's more of a general gem. Salute. We had a right back, let's move to a left back. Reinildo. I will only cover his current card because there's only little differences, just like with Wan-Bissaka's old card. He's a very capable defender who comes with good defensive stats. He's pretty fast and also has decent physical contact. Also a great player ID right here with 12 leg length and 11 shoulder width. He's even cheaper than Wan-Bissaka and only costs 34k, which is almost nothing. So if you need a decent left back, don't hesitate to get him. The next player is Vinny, and oh boy does he look good for a standard card. Again, only showing the most recent one here. Extremely fast, great awareness and dribbling skills, balance is alright too, overall a great offensive card. Now would I recommend him? No, I wouldn't. The reason is his massive price tag of 640k. New players should definitely not be using their GP for this. In my opinion, nobody should. Better save your GP for legacy transfers, or in case you don't want to buy managers for coins, save your GP for managers. Furthermore, for players like Vinny, Mbappe or Bellingham and some others, it's only a matter of time until you get a player of the week card of them anyway, which should be better than his base card. Next up is Malcolm Bokele, who can be used as a center back or fullback. This is his best card ever, which is from Data Pack 3 of 2024. Very nice defensive stats, good pace, physical contact is also quite good. He's very tall and has a nice ID with 11 leg length, which is great for a defender. He has exactly the same coverage as Saliba. Can his current GP card keep up? Not quite, it's a bit worse. The -7 in defensive awareness is quite a difference, and he's also slightly slower. However, he's still decent, especially considering he only costs 7k. Another gem for the same positions is Axel Tuanzebe. Great defensive stats and speed, and 80 in physical is also pretty good. He isn't extremely tall, but far from short either, and his ID is alright with 9 leg length and 10 shoulder width. As he only costs 14k, he is ideal for new players or anyone who has bad defenders. One of the absolute best GP cards ever is this guy here, N'Golo Kante from 2022 Data Pack 1. Amazing defensive stats, both speed and acceleration really high as well. His low pass and dribbling stats are also fine, so he's not only a defensive menace, he can also be useful offensively if you want to involve him in your attacks. You could even build him more offensively if you want. He will be everywhere on the pitch. Super nice card. Can the current card keep up? It is a bit slower, a bit worse offensively, but still crazy good. I have the version before this one, which is slightly better than the current one, and he's still in my national team squad as of today. It's 82,000 GP right now. If you're a new player, you can't do anything wrong with him really. He's amazing and absolutely worth it, even if you're not new. This one here, despite not being a keeper, is definitely somewhat of a keeper. Raquel Lombardi. He has trained so many of our players to improve them, so Raquel, if you hear this is my way of saying thank you. Although if I ever have to wait for aerial superiority so long again, we gotta have a talk, my friend. The next card is a left fullback, but can also be used as a side or central midfielder. Rafael Guerrero from Data Pack 3 of 2024. He's a very solid all-rounder, has decent defensive stats, great passing, crazy good dribbling, and also amazing acceleration. Physical is his weak point, speed is also not too high but still acceptable, but honestly that doesn't take anything from him. His current GP card is a bit different. It's worse in offense but better in defense. Can still play fine as either left back, left midfielder or central midfielder. Many builds are possible for him. What he also has going for him is that he's exactly 170 tall, which is the best height for dribbling. So if you need a decent fullback finisher or side or central midfielder, he could be your choice, and the 76k would be worth it. I also played him for a while a long time ago. Good card. A good offensive GP card is Ebergi Esse. He has great dribbling, is quite fast, good balance and stamina, and also decent passing. Esse is a whole player, which is an offensive style many people like. His ID comes with 11 leg length, which is pretty good. Finishing is not that great, but depending on where you play him, it can be sufficient. And you could always allocate more points in finishing if needed. 76,000 GP required to get this player. Another offensive alternative at exactly the same price and same leg length is Ademola Lookman. He's also a whole player and even more offensive than Esse. Compared to Esse, Lookman is faster and has better finishing, but also worse passing and slightly worse dribbling. Lookman is better with his weak foot. Both of these two can be solid choices for new players. We didn't have a keeper yet, except for Lombardi, so let's move to Vladimiro Falcone, a decent budget option for a keeper. His stats are okay, and his player ID is really good. He has one of the highest arm coverages in the entire game, which basically allows him to save shots from further away from him. At only 34k, he's definitely a good budget option, but there's a downside. He does not have the low punt skill, which many, including myself, consider very important for keepers. This budget keeper here, however, does have low punt. At 51k, Milinkovic Savic is a bit more expensive than Falcone, but unlike Falcone, he does have low punt. And also high punt, by the way, in case you use that one. Their pairing is equal. Milinkovic has better reach, but worse reflexes and catching, and also worse goalkeeping by 1 point. They obviously both won't even remotely come close to any of the good epic keepers, but they are what they are, budget options. For keepers, if possible, I think it might be smart to just directly go for one of the best GP keepers, but I'll get to that later. One of the best GP cards ever is Denis Zakaria from Data Pack 2 of 2025. He's fast, he's physically amazing, he has great defensive stats and one of the best player IDs in the entire game thanks to his height and leg length 12. He's not only a great defensive midfielder, but works just as well as a center back. Depending on your playstyle, you might want to get him up to 4 points in both dribbling and passing. Can the current GP Zakaria keep up? I would say yes. He has less aggression, physical contact and slightly less pace, but he's still absolutely fine. The current one even has more jump, which is especially useful if he's played as a center back. Stamina is even worse here, just sub him out when he gets tired. In my opinion, probably the best GP defensive midfielder in the game. I'd even rate him above Kante thanks to his player ID. 34k GP is nothing for him. Crazy value. The next card is Nordi Mukiele from Data Pack 2 of 2024. He's a really great center back with good defensive stats, great speed and also great physical. He's especially good in the air. His ID is nice as well, featuring 11 leg length. Let's compare his current card to it. He's still just as good in the air, but has lower acceleration and way lower awareness and tackling. Mukiele only costs 32k, so it's not that much, but in my opinion, minus 10 in defensive awareness and minus 9 in tackling is quite a big hit. I think there are enough other options for his position even among GP players, so I would say currently he is not a top choice. A really amazing center back is Stefan Posch from Data Pack 3 of 2024. His acceleration was a bit on the lower end, but everything else was super nice. Great physical contact, incredible defensive stats, and also good speed. I played this card a lot and it never let me down. But does the current version of him hold up? It's a bit weaker defensively and in physical contact, but he does have more acceleration now. I would say he's still alright, especially at only 32,000 coins. His height and leg length 10 are also in his favor. Still a good card, no doubts. You cannot say Stefan Posch without saying Dan Burn as well, said no one ever, probably. This is the well-known Dan Burn from last year's Data Pack 1. Just like Posch, amazing defensive stats, good speed, not that good acceleration. Physically and in the air, Burn is amazing. His player ID is also amazing because he has greater leg coverage than titans such as Patrick Vieira or Daniel van Buiten. But can his current card keep up with the old one? Unfortunately, it cannot. Defensive stats a lot lower, physical lower, speed and acceleration lower. It's quite a bit worse than before. Despite being only 32k, I probably wouldn't recommend him anymore. I think there are better options. Let's get back to keepers, more precisely Courtois from Data Pack 7 of 2023. If you've seen my video about the players with the best player ID in the entire game, link in the description by the way, then you know Courtois is among the top there. This version of him also had really good stats. Great keeper overall. Now let's look at the current version and whether he's still worth it. The current one is better in parrying by 1 and worse in reflexes by 1. Also worse in reach by 6. That one hurts. However, he's still a good goalkeeper and by far better than the other ones in this video. He costs 2000k, but the thing is, unless you go for epics, it can really take long until you're lucky enough to get a good goalkeeper from Player of the Week cards or nominating contracts or wherever, so I think it would actually be reasonable to go for him, even if 200k is quite a respectable amount, especially for a beginner. Another good GP player is João Cancelo from Data Pack 5 of 2023. He can play as an offensive fullback, a side midfielder or central midfielder. He's really fast, great dribbling, decent defensive stats and also good passing. A good all-rounder. His current card unfortunately is not as good anymore. He's a bit slower but still fast, and he's also worse defensively and in a few other stats. Lofted pass is a lot worse now, but unless you're a crosser, it isn't really that bad for you. I definitely wouldn't use him as a defender anymore because the defensive stats are just too bad. Even as a side or central midfielder, it is not a must buy for newcomers in my opinion. Another one of the best cards ever is Kylian Mbappe from Data Pack 1 of 2022. Amazing speed, super nice dribbling and also offensive awareness as well as finishing. He's also not too bad at physical contact, which is really important when playing him today. Speaking of today, how does today's Mbappe keep up? He's a bit faster, but a lot worse in physical contact. Dribbling is also worse, especially tight possession. Finishing is technically better, but not really. It's just that the old one got these allocation points in physical contact, which doesn't make too much sense for this one. So it's still a great card, no doubt, but for almost half a million GP, I wouldn't do it. There will definitely be more free cards or Player of the Week cards of Mbappe in the future, so I just save the GP and wait for these. Same as with Vinny before. Someone that I definitely would recommend to beginners is the current Ferland Mendy. He's super fast and has great defensive stats, so makes for a good defensive fullback. He also has a very nice ID with 11 leg length and 12 shoulder width. His height could be a bit better. It's so strange to say this. For 51k GP, if you have no better defensive fullback and none of the others in the video convinced you so far, Mendy can be a decent purchase. Another great GP defender is Takehiro Tomiyasu from Data Pack 3 of 2024. Amazing defensive stats and also outstanding in the air. Physical contact is good and his speed isn't too shabby either. Overall, one of the best GP defenders ever, no doubt. What about the current one? He's a bit worse than his older self. Defensive stats are a bit lower, especially Actually, the loss of 5 points in tackling is pretty big. Losing 4 points in physical contact isn't ideal either. Not that it matters much, but his dribbling and passing stats are really good for a defender. I would still recommend this card. For 76 KGP, he's a really good deal. Next up is Barella from Data Pack 7 of 2023. A really nice box-to-box player, quite fast, good defensive stats, good passing, good dribbling, just what you'd expect from a box-to-box type of player. A classic all-rounder. Physical and finishing are his weaknesses. The current Barella is clearly worse, especially in dribbling and defending. I think with a price tag of 120k, he is no longer absolutely worth it. I wouldn't recommend him for that amount. Another good offensive GP player is whole player Rafa Silva from Data Pack 3 of 2024. He's extremely fast and also has very good dribbling stats. He's also very versatile and can play several positions. His balance is great too, passing and finishing are alright. What about the current card? Well, it is a bit worse, but not really much. The biggest difference is passing, which is worse by 3. It's almost the same card essentially. For both, their weak foot is so bad, so if you choose to get him, try to avoid it. 51 KGP is an absolutely fair price for him. He should be worth it if you need somebody for a position he can play. Jules Koundé also has a really good current GP card. Defensive stats are amazing, pace is nice, physical is alright, but he could be a bit better in the air. Just like Tomiyasu before, he also has really nice passing and dribbling for a defender. His ID is good too, featuring 10 leg length and a nice torso as well. Now whether I would recommend him, I'm a bit torn. 170 KGP seems a bit much. He's good, no question, but is he 100 KGP better than Tomiyasu, for example? I wouldn't say so. I don't think going for him would be super wrong, but in my opinion, he's slightly overpriced. A not so well known but still quite good GP card for players not playing that long yet is Julio Enciso. He's a fast offensive player that also dribbles quite well. Passing isn't that good, finishing not exactly amazing either, but you could adjust the build to improve him there if you feel like it's needed. We've had better alternatives already, but for 26 KGP only, he's decent. The next card in my opinion was the best GP card ever in the entire game, especially in relation to time. It's from Data Pack 1 of 2022. Now look how good it is even by today's standards. If this card came in a Player of the Week pack today, best card of the pack, no question. Amazing defensive stats, nice physical, good in the air, great pace, just a really nice defender overall. Can also be built differently according to your needs. Let's see if the current one is just as good. Unfortunately, it is not. Quite a bit slower now. He lost 11 points in defensive awareness. His physical contact is down, and although it's not that important, he also lost dribbling and passing stats. He's a shadow of his former self. What did you do? Although his price at 82k isn't that much, I still wouldn't recommend him. I think that there are better options. Another great defender is GP Saliba. He has a very nice player ID thanks to his height and leg length 11. Defensive stats are nice, physical is nice, speed is nice, acceleration could be a bit better, but overall a really good card. Would I recommend buying it? Absolutely not. No. In my opinion, almost 300k is too much. A cheap defensive alternative is Enzo Ebose from Data Pack 2 of last year. Very fast and also great defensive stats, physical is decent too, and he has 11 leg length and is not too small. He's not as good in the air as others, but a build change could deal with that a little. At only 20k GP, this card was really cheap. His current card still costs the same, but unfortunately it's quite worse than his previous one in almost every single aspect. Even as a new player, there are probably better alternatives. This card here also belongs to the best GP cards ever. Jude Bellingham from Data Pack 4 of last year. Just like every single Bellingham, he has a crazy ID with maximum leg length as well as 11 arm length and shoulder width. Weak foot accuracy 3 is also a great asset. About his stats, he's a great dribbler, can pass, has great speed, although not too great acceleration, and he also comes with decent physical contact and solid defensive stats. Just an overall really great card. 77 finishing is also nice to have for a midfielder. Now is the current Bellingham just as good? Well, he's different. That's why his build is also a bit different, but you can always adjust it if you want. He lost 4 allocation points though. GP Bellingham is more of an offensive card now. His offensive awareness, finishing, balance and acceleration are higher, but there are also stats that are lower, such as dribbling, physical contact, speed or the defensive stats. He's still a great player though, just more of an attacker cheaper than an all-rounder. The problem, however, is that he costs over 400 KGP, which is, in my opinion, just way too much, especially since Bellingham is super popular and often gets Player of the Week or other cards. So no, I would not recommend getting him now. The last card is Eduardo Camavinga from this year's Data Pack 3. Another very well-rounded player, but a bit more on the defensive side when compared to Bellingham. Camavinga is seriously fast, has great defensive stats, decent physical contact, and can also dribble really well. As long as you don't finish or use his weak foot, he's great. Can his current card keep up with him? I would say yes. It's really mostly small differences. The new one comes with more stamina, which is actually pretty good. So yeah, this card is definitely still nice. But should you get it? It's almost 200 KGP. That is quite a lot. I'm a bit torn. If you absolutely need a defensively minded box-to-box player like him, he can be worth it despite the price. But it could be that just next week there will be a Player of the Week card or nominating contract that's better than him. Hard to say which way to go. You decide. If you know any other GP players worth getting that didn't make the video, feel free to let me know. Well, that's it, folks. Let me know if you liked the video. I'd love if you subscribed, liked, or commented. Until then, guys, take it easy. Shaka!